unique stories about the artists who will be associated with ArtPrize this year. And I'm here in kind of a unique position this morning, out overlooking downtown Grand Rapids and the Ford Freeway at the end of Sunset Avenue Northwest, where we find artist Steve Huyser-Honig and his camera, because he's got a really interesting concept this year for ArtPrize. Steve, what are you doing out here?
Okay, I'm calling my project 24 Hours, 100's of Photos, One Grand Vista for ArtPrize.
Wow, that's a long title.
Yeah.
So what's the concept? What exactly are you doing out here?
Okay, I've been out here since 1 o'clock this morning. I started out taking a series of pictures over towards St. Luke's Church over there. Over the course of the day, I'm moving my camera 60 times across the Grand Rapids skyline. I'll end up at midnight over towards the St. Mary's Hospital area, and I'm going to stitch or blend all of those photographs into a single panorama.
That's incredible.
Oh,
and the idea is then, what is it, 24 hours?
Exactly, yes. It's 24 hours in the life of Grand Rapids.
Wow, and you've got a great place up here to look over the city.
It's wonderful. It's absolutely perfect.
And the idea with choosing today is because of what?
The full moon.
The full moon.
So
you started out?
I had wonderful moonlight last night when I was here at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then tonight at 8:30, the full moon is going to rise right out over in this direction, and I'm hoping to get that in my shot.
Because there's a lot now, right? Because you have to have the right kind of weather, clear skies, a really perfect choice today.
It is.
All right, so show us exactly how you do this with taking the pictures.
All right.
You got a stool here.
I do. I wanted to get my camera up above the trees a little bit, and I'm pointing my camera down at the neighborhood here. This is, I think it's Robert Street, leading right into downtown Grand Rapids. And I'll take a series of about 12 shots, slowly moving my camera up, creating a vertical slice of time in a sense. And those 12 pictures will all be blended together to create that slice. And then I'll be taking 60 of those over the course of the day and blending them all together.
So to blend in from daylight, from dark to daylight through midday, and then eventually back into darkness again.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Exactly.
And of course the finished project you're going to have on display at ArtPrize, right?
I hope so. I hope so. Yeah.
That's the idea. Because what kind of a photographer typically are you?
You know, most often I'm doing nature and landscapes of the Great Lakes area, and I really wanted to come up with something for ArtPrize that was my tip of the hat to Grand Rapids. It's been my home for 30 years, and I'm proud of this city and wanted to capture that spirit.
Fantastic. And so here we are looking out over downtown Grand Rapids for one of ArtPrize's, well, let's just say unique, interesting, and more timely creations. Steve Huyser-Honig here with us today. The finished product, your entry into ArtPrize 2010. You have to tell us kind of about the journey that you were on to create this real masterpiece. I mean, you're one of my favorite people that we have had on.
Oh, Terry, that's so kind of you, and congratulations on your one-year anniversary. That's so wonderful.
And here it is.
Oh, there it is at Monroe Community Church on 800 North Monroe, Grand Rapids Gigarama, I call it. It's a huge panorama of the Grand Rapids skyline. Overall, it's 12 feet tall and about 22 feet wide.
That is gigantic.
It is gigantic, and it was composed from almost 600 individual photographs that I blended together into those vertical stripes that you see. And over time, about every 40 minutes, I started on the left side there about 4 o'clock in the morning, and every 40 minutes or so moved my camera, did one of those vertical stripes, and ended up about 11 o'clock at night.
What kind of gave you the inspiration for that?
You know, there's a movement called gigapixel photography where you combine hundreds of images to create one grand panorama. And my original concept had been two-dimensional, really. I thought I would blend all of those individual images into a single panorama. But what I found was that each moment in time was so unique that trying to blend them just really didn't work, and I needed to honor each moment, you know, in its own right. And that's where I came up with the idea of having each moment represented by one of those vertical panels.
So the different columns. And, you know, it was interesting because the first day that we went out and shot with you, you kind of had almost everything that you needed. You wanted a full moon, you wanted clear skies.
Yeah.
We had a little bit of haze in the air, though, which is not your friend when you're a photographer trying to do a panoramic landscape.
That's true.
So you went out again.
I did, and also there weren't any trees yet. I mean, leaves on the trees yet.
Yeah.
So I went later in May to create the final image that was entered in ArtPrize.
Wow. Okay. Were you bummed that you weren't a top 10? Let's be honest here.
Oh, you know, I had hoped to break into the top 100, and
yeah, I mean, of 1,700 plus exhibits, you know, but you did get quite an honor from GR Now.
I did, yeah. They listed me as one of 5. Well, how did they phrase it now? It was
one of the most
hidden
fascinating
treasures. I think it was. No, hidden gems. That was it. One of 5 hidden gems. Yes.
Well, that's fantastic. Okay, so we know that you're a professional artist. You make your living. So Eva and I want to know: can people buy prints of this, because it's a lot of work that you put into?
It's a tremendous amount of work, and yes, I do have prints available on my website. I have a poster, which is of the installation as you saw it there in the image you showed earlier, and also a fine art print that's available. And I'm actually willing to sell the original. And,
you are.
And I've scaled that down also, since it is a little bit large for anybody's living room.
You know, what a great piece that would make. That would make the entire room.
Yeah.
You know, you think of a photograph, anything, and I love the fact that it is dimensional, because you kind of, it draws you in more than just a flat piece.
It does, and it just really emphasizes when you're standing there, it's almost like you're in Grand Rapids.
Yes. Oh yeah, well thank you so much. Thanks for coming back. Congratulations, and we're going to hook up with you again for ArtPrize 2011, okay?
That's a deal.
All right, the wheels are already turning. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Your all-access pass to everything West Michigan.